Hi, and welcome to the A Quilting Life podcast. I'm Chelsi Stratton from Chelsi Stratton Designs.
And I'm Sherri McConnell from A Quilting Life.
And today is podcast episode number 53, and it will be airing
April 11th.
Yeah, we're taping it a little bit early, but just a little bit. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Full on spring here where we live. It's windy today. That's how we know it's spring here.
Yes. Yeah. It's been, the weather has kind of been back and forth, and that is how you tell where we live that like spring is here. But then it's like also very spring for a second, and then it's summer here. The weather can kind of be crazy and get hot really, really fast. So I'm kind of like mentally preparing for the heat to be coming.
Yeah. I haven't worn shorts yet.
Me neither.
It's still like jeans.
Yeah.
And short sleeve shirts mostly, but
I am not ready.
it's still cooling down at night. So
yeah, which is totally nice. Like if you want to go take an evening walk, but no, we are preparing for the heat wave to arrive. So
yeah.
Okay, so Mom has our quilts today. Should we start with that first?
Yeah. Oh, well, first I just wanted to say, just really quick, because I'm getting all the emails about Seashore Drive.
Oh, same here.
It's going to be shipping very soon. I've seen it show up. I think it went to Canada shops. I saw some Canadian shops that got theirs. I've seen a sprinkling. The Moda website shows April 15th is the latest that I've seen. So I am hopeful that by the end of the month, everybody will have their Seashore Drive in their hands.
Yes, and we just appreciate everyone's patience and kindness with these shipping delays that are out of our hands because we want you to get your fabrics.
Right.
So, but
And it has completely been out of our hands. I think sometimes too the fabric gets to the warehouse at Moda, but then they have so many collections that have to be shipped that they have to do it in order, in the original order.
Yes.
So even though it might be sitting there in the Moda warehouse, they can't start sending it out until all the previous collections have been. So, okay. So I just wanted to make note of that first. On the wall is Emma's Garden. Just have to let everybody know that Billy came up with a name for that pattern. He did. When I was trying to think of names for all my new patterns. And it was a grandmother's flower garden quilt anyway. And
of course,
Emma, he came up with a name.
Are we surprised we have that block?
But I just love this quilt so much. A fat eighth bundle will do everything. You can even cut out all of your hexagons that you need from a fat eighth bundle.
Wow.
And the other thing, we've already posted a video on this quilt, but if you didn't want to do the hexagon flowers, you could use any of the low volume prints from this collection for those blocks. And it would just be a really fun quilt, even without the flowers.
That's a great idea.
So, and then also Val, who quilted it, she's going to do a version where all the patchwork blocks are just the blues and low volumes and whites.
Oh, so pretty. That's a great idea. Because I was going to mention that those patchwork blocks, I actually really love that they show off all of the prints in the collection, but I love that she's going to do that version as well.
Yeah. So that's on the table. On the wall. On the table is Summer Sky. This is a big block quilt. This pattern also has two versions. I've got the blue, gray, and green version that I made. On the pattern, you'll also see there's one where all the outer edges are the grays, and then all the prints from the collection were used in the center star. So for this version, it's a fat quarter quilt, 18 fat quarters, and the other version that I mentioned is actually a layer cake plus yardage. With the layer cake, you get all of the stars.
Interesting.
So, and when I was testing out the block, I made a smaller block to test and made it into a pillow. And just love this pillow too.
Are we surprised Mom is so extra today?
I have to mention too, I get questions about pillow forms all the times with all the videos. I finally found a really inexpensive but good quality. I mean, feel this pillow. Like, It's a nice pillow.
It's very nice. But it is actually. I'm just like dying laughing. Feel this pillow.
Yeah. It wasn't super pricey, and it was on Amazon. So I'll link to the pillow. I'm really happy with this company. So I'm going to get my pillow forms from them now on.
Actually, it seems strange, but pillow forms matter. They really, especially if you're going to be using the pillow in your home.
Right. You don't want those wimpy ones.
Yes. Yeah.
Where you have to buy 5 sizes bigger to get it to fill out.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah, this one looks great. Yeah. And I really do love this pillow. And
thank you.
It's very cute. Yeah. Did you quilt it? Or did you have Gail?
Gail quilted this one.
I was going to say, I recognize the quilting.
Yep. It's so funny. We Marion and Val are an hour away. So if I have something that we need quilted right away, I have 2 great friends here in the Valley that Gail and Vicky now is doing some stuff. And it's so funny because they each have a pattern that I like. Yeah. And so I almost always have Gail do this.
Yeah, that flowery one.
She's probably so tired of it. And the same thing, Vicky has this cute little leaf design.
Oh my goodness, the leaf one is so good. She did that on one of my pillows.
Yeah, and I always have her do that. So they're both just like, you want your same pattern? I'm like, yeah.
I want Vicky to do that on like a fall quilt for me.
Yeah, that would be super cute.
And speaking of quilting, really quick, I don't know if you'll have a close up, but the quilting that Marian did on the table quilt, I was like, oh, I need her to do that on one of my quilts.
Is this a fun pattern?
It is so pretty. It's like flowery but wispy. And
Yeah. In fact, she sent me, when she was getting ready to quilt this one, she sent me 3 or 4 to choose from. And this was my favorite, but I picked one that was more conservative. And then I changed my mind.
Yeah.
And I said, no, do this one.
Yeah, this one's great.
I was really happy with it.
I love it.
Okay, and then just last, before we get in, we actually haven't shown the physical copy on the podcast yet of our Home for the Holidays book, and we're actually going to tape a video today, right?
Yes, we're doing a video today.
And where you can see all the quilts and projects, and we'll talk about everything.
Yep.
So we won't have the
actual quilts,
but we have photographs.
We'll be talking about the book. Yeah. We are so excited about this book. It's available for pre-order right now and ships in June. So it's really coming up.
Yeah.
So
watch for that video coming soon. And also watch for a video on this Summer Sky quilt coming soon too. I think that's going to air later this week maybe.
Yeah, Thursday.
Okay. Yeah. So we've already taped that. So, okay. Awesome. Well, we have some.
Well, I have.
Billy did the outline for this podcast.
Yeah, he's great.
It's really great.
Well, I wanted to start by giving you guys a little feedback from your new fabric line. We did a podcast. We did the video that we released where you guys did an up close look at it.
Yeah.
Mom's done a few videos. You've shown some quilts on the last podcast, Chelsi. So anyway, I don't know. I know my mom and sister don't get time to go on YouTube and read every comment. Please keep leaving them, though. They are good for the channel, and I get to them as frequently as I can to try to respond to as many as I can. And also we get ideas for podcasts and everything, questions and things like that too. So please don't be discouraged if you don't get a response right away. But I just want to let you guys know that it's been there's been a lot of, this is my favorite line of yours so far.
That's fun.
For Emma. So just to let you guys know. It makes me
so happy.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know no one's seen it in person yet and everything, but I was going through comments and everything in the last week to get ready for the podcasts. And I was like, wow, there's a lot of people that seem very excited about this new fabric line. And I mean, you guys have been talking about it a lot on the YouTube channel with all of our podcasts and videos, but yeah, some really positive feedback so far. So I just want to let you guys know.
Oh, that's good.
I'm always so
hear.
Grateful for that feedback. Yeah. It makes me so happy because
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for telling us that. I actually got an email just last night. So I did my Emma scrap bags and I offered them to my Patreon group first because I knew they were going to sell out. And so and of course they snatched them right up. But one of the women who was able to get one just emailed me last night. She got her fabric yesterday and she said, I love every piece of fabric in this collection.
Oh,
And she said, I can't wait to be able to get it in the fall. So
That makes me so happy.
yeah. So, because you send out those scrap bags and you wonder, are they going to like it? Like,
Yeah, are they gonna like it
Yeah,
in person? It's kind
so-
of get a
Yeah.
little taste of
Right.
the real deal. And
Yeah. So it was fun to get her email. Thank you,
Yeah.
Jane, for that email. So,
Okay, so for today's episode and the main topic that I thought might be good for you guys to talk about is, this is the Quilting Life podcast and your blog is the A Quilting Life blog. And basically everything started by you just saying like, this is my life and this is how I've integrated quilting into it, right? And so I thought maybe today you guys could do a little reevaluation of your personal quilting lives. A lot of people know what you guys do and how it's been going for you and everything, but maybe you could, and a lot of people also probably know how you started. You've mentioned that before on the podcast, but I was thinking maybe, we could start with Mom and then Chelsi next and go back and look at when you first started the A Quilting Life blog and just talk about like if you ever envisioned what has become now with everything that you have going on, if you ever envisioned that happening. So like some of the things I wrote down here. So, you have a eclectic mix of different quilting projects and responsibilities, and these include fabric design, pattern design, small projects, blogging, writing books, teaching in-person classes, going to quilt markets, doing product reviews. You have all of your shipping and handling you guys do. You do live and in-person and online trunk shows. You participate in sew-alongs. You do the YouTube videos. We do this podcast. Mom just started a Patreon channel. So when you first sat down in, what year was it that you first started your blog?
so 2008.
2008. Did
Wow.
you,
Yeah.
you were starting to write a blog about, like you said, to document everything you've done. Did you ever envision all of these different things coming along with that?
Oh, absolutely not. Never. Billy has written down on our outline, Mom, did you really have a goal to grow your hobby into a business when you first started your blog in 2008? And I absolutely didn't. I really, as I mentioned before, just wanted to keep track of my projects. And a lot of people were doing kind of the mommy blog thing then. And
yeah.
I had 2 kids at the time at home, right? Candace had already gone to college and Billy was in college. So I just had
I was still home, guys.
Chelsi was still there. In fact, one of my early blog posts was a prom dress I made for her.
And I just found the picture. We're going to pop it up.
We are? You have
right.
the picture?
I have the picture.
Okay.
I found it the other day.
Oh, wow.
I was showing the kids.
Well, it is prom season right now too.
yeah.
I know. And I have the dress still, too.
Wow.
I do.
That's so
I do.
cool.
I know.
Yeah, so I put Chelsi in her prom dress on my blog because I was kind of like, well, I'm not a mommy blogger. My kids are, I guess Sean was in middle school, you were in high school.
Yeah.
So yeah. So anyway, I just had no idea. But then, it was a really good time to start a blog. In fact, I've read articles saying the very best time to have started a blog was 2006 to 2008. And
Yeah.
I made it right at the tail end of that. If you're thinking about it, by the way, the second best time is now. It's always a good time to start a blog. But yeah, I had no idea, but I feel like there was this quilting community that made it really easy for everyone to find each other back then on the internet. And I started getting people sending me stuff to, it would drive my husband crazy, and because I was getting free fabric, free thread,
Yeah.
free notions, free rulers, free,
To blog about.
blog about.
And that was just because people came across your blog and said, "Oh, this is good," and then they would start, having you do product reviews. Is that
Yeah.
the first
Yeah.
step into like?
Because that was the reach then. Like Instagram
Right.
wasn't.
There was
like,
no Instagram
No
really.
Instagram.
wasn't a
then.
thing.
Yeah.
And so the company saw the value in a blog.
Right. So that really, so I started doing that. And the other thing, a lot of times I just didn't even, I don't know, connect in my brain. I had to have people reach out to me. But a friend who had a great blog, I wish she was still blogging because I loved her blog. It was called Pleasant Home, and
Yeah,
Jody.
she's awesome.
Yeah. She actually emailed me one day. We hadn't met in person at that time. We've met several times now, but she actually reached out and said, you should put a little bit of advertising on your blog to help cover your expenses. I think you have enough page views, and so I, connected with the company that she recommended, and it was great because it does take a lot of time to write blog posts. And I know people don't love ads on blogs, but it's 20 to 30 hours a week.
Yeah, it's a lot.
When you think about the writing and the photography and the blogging,
Yeah.
So I was really grateful to her for suggesting that portion of it. So, and then
So you started with some product reviews, then you got a little advertising on your blog. How did you get in contact with, like you mentioned the last episode, the swoon quilt? Like, how did you get in contact with some other quilters who were already designing quilts and selling patterns?
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever told this story before here, but Joanna Figueroa, I was sewing with a lot of her fabrics, and she put a call out on her blog one day that she needed a sample sewer. And I thought about it all day. Should I email her back? Should I not? Should I email? And I remember going out to the computer late at night. Our only computer then was in our family room. And so, we didn't have a laptop or anything. So I ran out to the family room, turned the computer on. I emailed her that I would like to sew some samples for her. And she emailed me back the next day, and she sent me some fabric, and she wanted me to make these quilt blocks, but she wanted me to send them to her first.
Yeah.
So she could check for accuracy, I guess,
Yeah.
before she sent me the rest of the fabrics to finish the quilt. So I made the blocks. I mailed them back to her. She mailed them back with the fabric, and that just started, several years of sewing samples for her.
Yeah.
And that was a great experience for me. I learned a lot, probably, because I read all of her patterns word for word before I got started. So I learned a lot about reading patterns and a lot of different techniques. She would send me things that I really thought, wow, I've never done this before. Well, I'm making the sample for her to take to Quilt Market. I better do a good job, so.
It's daunting.
Yeah. And then she gave my name to Camille. So that's how I started sewing for Camille. And then Lori Holt, I just really can't remember how we connected, probably through the internet also. Mm-hmm. Did a little bit of sewing. I probably did 4 or 5 quilts for Lori. So.
And then, I'm sorry, I'm sort of walking a step through step here.
No,
but
this is good.
But from there, working on with other quilt designers, is that when you first started stepping into designing patterns yourself, or?
Well, not quite. There's another step that I really don't talk about a lot, but that was really influential. Craftsy, and I don't even know if they're still called Craftsy. I think they changed their name.
Yeah.
But they reached out to me and wanted me to write for them. And so I actually wrote for Craftsy for a couple of years. And it was really interesting because at the time I was blogging on Blogspot, but they used WordPress. So I had to learn WordPress to do my work for Craftsy. And I didn't even really know, they were requiring these keywords and for me to use these words so many times in a post. And I really, at the time, I had no clue that they were teaching me search engine optimization and they were teaching me all of these techniques. And so I wrote for them. And then actually Lisa Alexander at Moda also reached out to me and asked me to write for the Moda blog post. And so I started, and that was a paid thing for a little while with writing. So I was writing for Craftsy, I was writing for my own blog, and then I was writing for Moda. And something that I really learned from my experience writing for Moda that really helped was Lisa sent a calendar out. So she wanted me to kind of schedule everything I was going to write about for 3 months.
Wow.
Yeah. And I had never done that with my personal blog. But that was another thing that really, in the end, came to really help me.
Yeah.
And Moda used WordPress, I believe, at the time.
Wow.
Also, so my knowledge from Craftsy helped me do that. And then when I decided that I wanted to move forward, when I really decided that I wanted to make it a business, I reached out to Lisa Alexander at Moda and basically said, what should I do? And she said, start a pattern company. That was her answer.
Yeah. Wow.
So that was 2012. So that was 4 years of blogging for myself and other people and product reviews before it kind of dawned on me that that's what I wanted to do.
This is also strange to me because I was like at home and I knew nothing about
Yeah, I don't think any of your kids did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so crazy.
Like we, as your children, all just sort of like, oh yeah, we hear you got this, and yeah, even blogging, especially for like teenagers or I was in my 20s and everything, just like okay, it's a website but it's not. It's just like your little thing where you're going on and ranting about quilting. Like none of your kids really understood what you were doing and didn't see like anything long-term coming from it.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's just like, okay,
Right.
it's just like what you like to do. Just you like to write as well as quilt,
Yeah.
And
that's why I joke about it going back is like my friends would come over and they'd be like, oh, your mom's quilting again. And I'm like, I know, she does it all the time. And it's just so funny. I didn't even know so much that was going on.
for a 4-year period, everything that was brewing essentially
Yes.
to lead to where it would go. So maybe we can from there. I mean, I know there's even more things, but that's essentially the start of the business was when you first said, okay, I'm going to make a pattern design company, write a couple patterns and sell them. And that's sort of the start of it. So then let's maybe jump ship to Chelsi in the beginning of where you come in, which we know was strictly just fabric design, right? And then now help me out with the year on that. What year was it that you guys first went to Moda and pitched your fabric?
2014. But then our first fabric line came out May of 2015.
15.
Is that right?
Yeah.
But you were
that was the
essentially
time
getting
frame.
involved in 14.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think this is a question I've asked you before is, when you first started the fabric design process and mom, and you guys have talked about like what led mom to think you could do it and everything. But did you think you were just going to stick with that and do a couple fabric lines every year and that's it? That's all you wanted a part of?
Yes.
Okay.
And for a couple years, I was very, very content with just that. That I was like, oh, this is my twice a year thing. And I really, really enjoyed it. But
what happened?
But your children were babies at the time,
babies
too. So
babies.
Yeah.
And I hadn't even had Finn yet.
Right.
Like Finn was born right after Desert Bloom came out.
Yeah.
So like still in the beginning stages. But I truly have this belief.
I have to interrupt you. When I was doing okay, so Chelsi's girls both spent the night here the other night. And it was kind of in the middle of my sewing room is mostly put back together now, but I had all of this stuff out on the landing and they woke up before we did. And so apparently they were like going through all the sewing stuff on the landing while I was sleeping.
Are you serious?
But they found this picture of you and I from the Salt Lake Quilt Market when you were pregnant.
Oh no.
So it's probably the only picture of us together where you weigh more than me.
Oh my goodness.
But because you were like really pregnant, like 7 months.
Yeah.
I
was
or
huge.
6 months. So anyway, they found that picture of us And I think we have like some scissors. It was in the Moda photo. So I can pop that up too.
Yeah.
I don't know if Chelsi wants it popped up. But,
no, I want it popped
but
up.
it's a cute.
I look really different.
So, yeah. And the girls said they wanted that picture. And I said, no, I need to keep this picture.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the Salt Lake Quilt Market.
They did tell me though, they're like, we tried so hard to sleep in, Mom, but we had to wake up at 7. And I'm like, oh my goodness, my parents are gonna be so tired. But
Yeah, but wasn't that the collection that did you
Desert
do your
Bloom.
first quilt with? That collection?
No.
Oh, you weren't quilting then either.
No, it
Oh,
was
okay.
after Finn was born that I
Okay.
leaned on quilting because I was up with him
Oh.
all night. And so I knew. And so there would just be some times where I was like, I'm just going to stay up and sew because I might as well just stay up with him.
Right.
And though, honestly, I'm really grateful because those late nights with a baby can be very tiresome. But I really leaned into quilting after having him, and it was really, really good for me. But
So it was just essentially you were
no,
doing something to keep yourself busy as you're staying up all night, or
well, kind of. But I have this belief: you cannot enter a quilt market and not be inspired. You cannot. I had no idea the possibility. For me, it was a creative thing solely, and so because quilt designing was something creative, that's why I wanted to do it. I didn't necessarily want to sew at first. My first quilt after starting fabric design, I would just call Mom and be like, well, my points aren't matching up. I'm not enjoying this. But it was a creative thing for me. And so I just kept sewing like a mad woman. Like I was just sewing and sewing and sewing. And I made, the first year I started quilting, so many quilt tops, like so many. But it was a creative thing I wanted to create, and that was an avenue to create. And because I was designing the 2 fabric lines a year, I had time in between. Pattern designing is a lot of work, and it takes up a lot of your time. And so I hadn't started a pattern company yet, so I just decided that I wanted to learn how to quilt. And the first quilt market, all the Moda designers were so nice to me and welcoming, and they were like, are you going to start designing quilts? And I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. That's my mom's thing. And you can't like not fall in love. For me, I fell in love with it. Like I really enjoy it. It's like therapeutic. I really enjoy actually quilting. But yeah, I guess, does that answer it okay?
Well, yeah, it does. I do have a couple follow-up.
Okay, good.
This episode's sort of like me interviewing you guys.
I'm
It
loving
really
it.
is.
You know
Yeah,
how you
it
interview
is.
your
Yeah.
guests about their quilting life.
Yeah.
I guess
Yeah.
I thought maybe we could do a more deep dive into you guys. But so what was the first pattern that you designed to sell? And then I'm guessing, this is just me assuming that you ran it by Mom and had her give you like, Mom, is this good enough to publish, basically?
Oh yeah,
Right.
Mom did the pattern edits for me.
Yeah.
Okay, so what pattern was it? And
I don't talk about it a lot.
I think you
so
should. It's your
cute,
first
though.
one.
It's so cute. I feel like I should make a second version, but smaller sized. Mom has been
Yeah.
suggesting that to me forever. My first quilt pattern is To the Moon and Back, and it was inspired by Finn, my little boy.
And you made the quilt for his big boy bed.
Yeah, I made the quilt for his big full-size bed.
Yeah.
And so it's a very big quilt, and it has some like moon blocks in it and rocket ship blocks and star blocks. And I don't know why for my first quilt pattern, I decided to design a quilt that had 4 different blocks, but I did.
And it's big too, right?
It's
like
huge. It's like 80 by 80.
Yeah.
It's ginormous. And I did a navy background. We will throw a picture up. And I was just so self-conscious about the entire process because it was my first time. And it didn't really I don't know.
But didn't sell well?
It didn't sell
Okay,
well.
that's fine.
Okay,
It's
but
crazy saying that.
I
but
got a
fine.
story about that because
I'm still self-conscious about it.
You shouldn't be though.
Dad,
I know. I just started my business.
Dad was so worried about you. And we got on her Etsy shop and we could tell that nobody had purchased the pattern yet.
Forgot about this.
And so
I'm gonna cry.
he purchased the pattern. And he was like, okay, I'm going to buy this pattern. And because he just couldn't stand the fact that she hadn't sold a pattern, it was only like the morning of the first day that she.
Oh my goodness.
listed it.
This is a father's love.
Yes. And he purchased that pattern. And I don't know.
Totally forgot about
Yeah.
that. No, you guys, Dad, seriously, we don't see him a lot in this space, but he is there supporting. He bought one of my patterns.
He bought your pattern.
He bought one of my patterns for To the Moon and Back. And oh my goodness. Yeah. And I think I remember calling you and being like, because you have that moment of defeat where you're like, can I even do this? Am I even qualified to do this? Like, why am I doing, like you ask yourself, why am I doing this? But that is a part of the journey. And actually, Susie from Susie Quilt shared that same thing. Her very first pattern, she said she did not sell any of that. And look at how amazing her business like has blossomed, like truly inspiring. And that's how I felt. I was like, oh, I designed this first pattern and I put like my whole heart and soul into it. And it didn't sell well. And I was so devastated about it. But no, it's fine. It was the beginning. And that's how it starts. And Mom was like, you got to keep with it. And I remember her telling me, Chelsi, someday you're going to have 100 patterns in your shop. And I'm thinking, no, I'm not. And now I like look at my shop and I'm like, wow, what a journey. I've designed a lot of different quilt patterns. And I would have never thought that I would have stuck with it and done it. But
well, yeah, and you did. And I think that's still, in talking to you right now, I think you should let go of that. Okay, it didn't sell at the beginning. I think you should put it on the wall next episode sometime.
I've never brought it on the wall.
I think you definitely should now, just to like,
my goodness.
Like you need to, you've obviously done well with many, many other patterns since then. So who cares that the first week you didn't sell good the very first time you put a pattern up on Etsy? You know, like you can look back, you should look back and laugh on it now and be like, yeah, it's my first quilt. And it didn't, you know, sell out and right away or anything, but who cares? You know, that's like your stepping stone. Do you remember Brad Pitt's first movie?
No.
Of course not, right? Probably someone out there does, but we don't.
Someone, a fanatic.
Actually, I'm going to throw this out there because I told her even initially, I'm like, this would be really great as a crib size quilt or a lap quilt. And this next collection that we're getting ready to design quilts for would be a perfect collection to make a small version of that. My goodness. So maybe there's one of your new patterns.
See, and that's the thing is my pattern writing has greatly improved like over the years. And so now I was telling Mom the other day, I was like, man, it's almost refreshing to like write a pattern because you improve, and I love that. I should let that go. That's the whole point, is improving and bettering yourself and growth. And I'll put the quilt on the wall. I have 2 quilts I'm sharing in the next podcast, but then I promise I will. I'm going to be so nervous. Okay. Yeah.
No, you shouldn't.
And it is so well loved. And that's what makes me so happy. I even have to fix the binding on a little portion of it.
Because he's used it.
He used it so much and enjoyed it. But you're right. Our next fabric collection, which we actually are designing quilts for right now, that's perfect. I didn't even think of that.
Wouldn't it be great for that?
Yes,
with those colors.
Smaller size. Oh, yep. You guys.
I have to say, too, I just finished binding one of the quilts that she'll have in the next episode. Perfection. Like your half square triangles, the points. Really awesome. Because, you know, when you're binding a quilt, you are up close and personal and you see the workmanship.
I'm going to rewind this and watch it. Hearing my mom say perfection to me
awesome job
was a breakthrough.
Is it United that I just...
United.
Okay, yeah.
It's Marion's favorite quilt,
watch for
too.
United. I mean, it's already in her shop, so... But yeah, beautiful.
I do have to say, though, Mom has bound all of my quilts this time around because she's like, I got some shows to watch. And I'm like, oh, perfect. Thank you. Like... Well, thanks, Mom. Guys, this is so good for me. I'm going to go home feeling so positive.
Perfect. That's why, you know, looking back, sometimes, you know, you lose track of the past, and sometimes it's good to look back at the past to see
yes,
how you got to where you are now, you know. So with that being said, I know we could probably talk a lot longer about that, but just for time's sake, we'll move to the second portion of what I had planned. Maybe we could even go back to the first portion in another podcast sometime, pick up where we left off. But I think this is important too, because a lot of people that listen to this podcast, watch the videos, obviously don't do it for a business. They might do it the way you started Quilting Mom, just as a hobby. You're interested in people's fabrics. You were interested in other people's patterns. You'd purchase them. You'd make them. You'd make projects, things like that, right? So that was your quilting life prior to 2008, before it transformed into a business. And then, so we know you have all these things on your plates right now, but eventually I'm sure you'll start taking different things off those plates as you get basically into be like, I don't want to work as many hours a week until I'm 85 years old. Like you want to, you essentially it's like, it's like a hobby. So you're never going to really officially retire from quilting. You're probably going to do that the rest of your life. But at the same time, there is going to be a time where you're going to want to slow down. And obviously Mom will do that before Chelsi. So what I wanted you guys to imagine is your future quilting lives, and like, how do you anticipate your quilting life being when you are pretty much stepping completely away from the business, when you've designed your last fabric line together, when you're like, I'm not going to and once you stop designing fabric, that means you don't have to make 4 quilt patterns for the fabric line, right? So maybe you want to publish a pattern every once in a while, but it will just be like when you feel like it, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't know if you could sort of tell me how you envision your future quilting life when the business side is slowed down or over.
Yeah, no, this is a great question. And we have a lot of examples to look to, actually. Camille's mom, Bonnie, just stepped back.
That's who I was going to bring up.
Right. And so Camille's doing the fabric by herself. And, Bonnie kind of made a clean break. She just went from designing patterns and then 0 patterns she designed with this collection that Camille did on her own. And but then you look at other people who really haven't, they've just kind of slowed down. So I'm thinking of Lori Simpson, and her sister stepped away, Polly. Yeah. Completely stepped away, but Lori's kept it up. And I noticed Lori does fewer patterns. Yeah. I feel like one collection she may have only done 3, but they were all beautiful.
Oh, beautiful. Still amazing fabrics.
Sandy Klopp has kind of taken a step back. And I noticed towards, sometimes she would redo some older patterns in the new collections.
Jan Paddock
but they're still
present.
They're still, and they're not going to quit quilting. Yeah. I also look at Barbara Brackman, who blogs regularly. Yeah. Blogging isn't difficult. If you like to write. So I just kind of see maybe, when we first were doing the fabric, I was trying to do 5 or 6 patterns because Chelsi wasn't doing patterns. And then when Chelsi started, I moved to 4.
And now I'm doing like 6.
Now it's too much. I can see backing off to 3. Yeah. And just doing 3 quilts. And I don't know.
Can I be honest? Busy, so I don't see you ever stopping. I don't. Mom is a powerhouse. And I know this is a speculation, but there is no future that I see you stopping, because see, when you were making clothes, at the age of 10? Yeah. This is something she loves. It's ingrained in her. This is what she does. So even if Mom were to let all the other business stuff go, you would still quilt. You would still sew. Well, you would still make.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get at, though. Yeah. And I know, but I agree with you, Chelsi, because I don't see Mom stop anytime soon, because you do like to stay busy. You're very a workhorse driven person. But that's what I'm saying. I know Mom will always quilt, but that's what I was wondering, if you had an idea outside of the business. But I think it's hard for you to even envision that, Mom. Is that true?
Well, yeah, kind of. Yeah. I see myself never stopping blogging. I mean, I went to school I don't know, most people who get English degrees think about, I'm going to write the Great American Novel someday, which I obviously know I'm not going to do that. But blogging is a great substitute for the Great American Novel.
That's so funny. I don't have an English degree, and I would love to write several books.
Yeah. So Yeah, so I don't see
that's
ever
true.
stopping writing the blog. I just don't ever see that happening. I see slowing down on the pattern writing. That's a lot
Yeah.
of work.
It is a lot of work.
Yeah.
That is like what our lives are consisting of right now. And
Yeah.
it is a lot of work for me too. Like,
Yeah.
but no, but in
But
defense of Billy's question,
Uh-huh.
if you were solely asking me, I have already told mom and dad already, and my husband knows this. I definitely see a point slowing down, and probably at an earlier age than mom ever would, just because when Bonnie, I was very surprised actually. I had seen Bonnie slow down on some things,
Right.
but Bonnie has a lot of kids and grandkids, and I just want to spend time with my family.
With your family.
That's what I want. And I'll never stop quilting and sewing for probably my kids and my grandkids. But I've said this multiple times. I don't want to do the business side forever.
Right.
Because I want to just chill a little bit.
Also, I see myself doing more charity quilts.
Yes, totally.
Just having the time where it's not a business and just being able to donate quilts. I had an experience recently. I don't want to like share the particulars, but
yeah,
I just really felt like I needed to give a quilt to somebody, and the love and the joy that came from giving that quilt was just. Now I realize you don't always know who you're giving the quilt to if you donate a quilt, but I was just like blown away by, how rewarding that was to give a quilt away and have somebody love it and appreciate it immediately, you know? So, so more charity.
I think one thing that we can note and that's obvious with you is that if you're doing something that you love, like you really love to do, it's never really a job. Anyway, and so turning a hobby into a career or business, it's like, well, you're just doing what you love and making a business out of it. So, it is hard to slow down when you already really enjoy doing the things you do. But speaking from the outside, I know that you guys work a lot, and there is stress involved too when you have to meet, like deadlines. I guess deadlines.
Yes, deadlines.
Like imagine if you could do everything you could do, but that you're already doing, but you just didn't have the stress of a deadline over it. And that's what I envision when I see you guys stepping away, is that you're like, you still get to do everything you want to. Okay, you want to post a pattern here and there, fine, but you just don't have deadlines. But I know being with a company that you design fabric, there's obviously going to be deadlines, and that's of course going to be there. So, but yeah, that's what I just sort of envisioned, like you guys still doing things here and there, but if you don't have to be as stressed, I mean, that would be a good thing.
See, I like that. Yeah, the deadlines are where, and actually I see myself picking up the pace this fall. I'll find all my kids will be in school starting this fall, and I don't know like how I'm going to feel about that, but no, deadlines.
Yeah.
But, and I want to say something real quick. Maybe this is off topic. I thought at first the podcast, I'm like, oh, it's going to take up even more time. It has been so enjoyable.
Yeah.
And I actually feel like it's just such a great dynamic. And that was something we added to the plate.
Right.
And it hasn't been stressful just because I get to hang out with my family more.
Right.
And that
I think it helps spur new ideas for you, maybe.
I think so too.
Totally. And even someone asked me yesterday, like 3 people, I'm sorry, I try not to like talk about, but no, they were like, now what's Billy doing again? And I'll like explain it for like the umpteenth time. Like, oh, well, he runs all the media for all this stuff. And they're like, what? Is that like a thing? Is that like enjoyable? And I'm like, oh, you have no idea. Like it's really cool.
On our next episode, I'll talk a little bit more about how my life has changed.
Oh,
because
good.
Of that.
See, this makes me happy. Okay, we're
that's
like,
a great idea.
This is but
one thing too, really quick. I know we probably are we like running out of time?
We are kind of.
Okay,
we're about to that point.
Last thing, I just recently read, if somebody asks you to do something, before you answer, think, am I willing to do this tomorrow?
Oh.
And if the answer is no, tell them no. It's not going to fit on your plate.
Yeah.
Even if they're asking you, oh, will you do this in May? So think in your mind,
Would I do it tomorrow?
Would I do it tomorrow? And that has helped me say no to several things lately.
And it's good to, it's okay to say no.
It was because like I was thinking, sometimes I think we say yes because the deadline is out a little bit. And so I got this email and it was a good thing. But did I want to do it tomorrow? No. And so I just said, thank you so much for thinking of me. Please reach out to me again, but this isn't a good time right now.
Yeah.
And so I think sometimes that's a good idea for looking at our quilting life in the future.
Yeah.
That little yardstick. Yeah.
I love that.
And just to mention about the podcast too, and I mean, obviously it was it was just interesting. I've shared this before too, is that when I first saw like, okay, our YouTube channel has grown to a point where, it can be, I had a full-time job and everything, but so it was always like, okay, just going out and doing videos. I wasn't as motivated. And I'll be honest, as soon as the YouTube channel like became monetized without us even posting videos for like over a year, it just eventually accumulated to that point. When I got that email, I said, I guess it would be worth my time to go work with my mom more on videos. But that was 2 weeks before shutdown.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we'd heard about it and everything, but no one had thought the whole world's going to shut down 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
And so I really had already thought about coming out and start working with my mom more on free time, maybe weekends every once in a while. But then once everything shut down, obviously, and I could work from home, that's where it took off. And then the podcast stemmed from there. But so that whole part of your quilting life and business with growing a YouTube channel, doing a podcast, which if you listen to other tech people or running a YouTube channel there's a lot that goes into it.
Exactly, just like blogging.
Just with
blogging,
it's
a whole
it's its whole type of thing. So to do it to actually sustain growth and everything, but I guess that would be like my quilting life.
Yeah.
Got into the video.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We have proof on video. He has a quilting life.
Yeah.
Differently. And I didn't, at this start, I did not envision it being where it is now. So, but anyway,
this was a great conversation.
I didn't want to stop, and I love all of our episodes, but this was like I could keep talking about just these subjects forever. We might have to carry some things over into the next.
I think what would happen, I think we'll get some feedback from people listening to the conversation. We'll probably have, if you guys have follow-up questions about anything else about my mom or sister that you would like to know more about in their early days of their quilting journey and everything, we can revisit this topic because, one thing I've always heard about podcasts is don't put a time limit on, let it be over when the conversation's over. But at the same time, sometimes I think 45 minutes to an hour is like sort of that sweet spot.
Yeah.
So, but we can always revisit it. It's not like we have to, that's it forever.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well,
okay.
I guess it's time for this episode to come to an end. We really appreciate your watching and listening.
And our next episode is Monday, April 25th. So please join us then.
Yeah. And thanks so much for stopping by.